Hi, today I'm going to talk about social development. And just to remind you, I'm going to propose that by learning about social development in children and being knowledgeable about that, it'll give you some ideas about how to be inventive and help your kids be successful socially. So the first period of time that we're going to talk about from birth through 5, the beginning part of that, I'm titling Play is Children's Work. Because when they play, they're practicing all sorts of different social qualities or characteristics. But even before that, I'd like to acquaint you with the following ideas. When children are born, they don't come like a blank slate. They come with all sorts of instincts and reflexes and so on, maybe 100 reflexes. Some of them go away. But they also discover that, researchers have discovered that they like to look at the human face right at birth more than any other thing they have to look at. So when researchers said, okay, let's have a human face or let's have brightly colored pages, they preferred the human face. Well, why? Well, because human faces have emotions on them and they want to learn about their environment and find out how life is going to be for them right from birth. You might also be interested in knowing that babies socially initiate 80% of the contact between them and adults. They do it through crying or smiling or so on. They have some built-in assets. For example, their heads are much larger in proportion to their bodies than will be the case later on. So when they smile and look at you, they have this welcoming deal. Years ago, we had these Cabbage Patch dolls, and they were built just like newborns. They sold out and for one Christmas because they had heads larger than is ordinary. And then their cries, and parents learn about the cries. They have a kind of a pain cry, a hunger cry, maybe a kind of a discontented or unhappy cry. And by the time I learned about that, I was sitting in my chair one day and I heard one of my children, who's about 2.5, cry. And I was up and running because apparently I saw that that cry was something other than hunger. When I finally found him, he climbed up on where a sink was, and on his way down, he had hooked his pants to the cupboard door handle and he was hanging upside down. He was really grateful to see me by the time I got him off that. I was amazed, however, that I had responded because the cry was different. Now let's talk about play and the idea that play is children's work. And you want to watch this and pay attention to it because they will play. They'll have parallel play where they're playing by the side but not with each other. They will have something called associative play, and this associative play is we're just going to get together and have a minimum of interpersonals. And then they'll have cooperative play. And you're watching this play and they're making progress and so on. Well, what are you looking for? You want to find out how easy it is for a child socially to adapt from one situation to another. Children who have difficulty adapting their emotions often are going to have other emotional problems later on as adults. So you want to see it and then help them be adaptive. So for example, you could prepare kids on, say, here's what you can do in this situation. We're going to ride in the car. Here's what we do in the car. Make sure they understand all the conditions or the rules for a context of some kind. Then you could, later on when children are, let's say, watching a TV program and you say, it's dinner time and they get angry, well then one parent I know gives them warning. In 5 minutes I'm going to call you, give them a chance to prepare for that. But then another parent I learned has a little game called adjusting. And they teach their children to how fast to adjust from one situation to another and make it a form of play. And that worked pretty well. So they would have mealtime and then adjust to doing the dishes afterwards or chores or whatever and so on. Now at the same time they're having a lot of social activities, kids will display what are called non-social activities, and they will do things on their own and play and so on. Now here's a creative idea. One mother reported that her child was clingy and would cling to her and so on, and her question was, well, how do I get him to play along? We talked about it a little while, and in this case I suggested that she have the child hang on to her leg and practice every day for a half hour. Wherever she goes, he should hang onto her leg. She said, why? If he's clingy. And I said, you do that so he'll get tired of it and stop clinging. So she did that. It took her 3 days, and Purdy said, Mom, I don't want to be here anymore. And she said, well, okay. And then he left and went on into another room to play. Now, one reason for doing this is to watch for antisocial behavior, which means kids will hurt each other. And you watch for that because sometimes anger and jealousy and all that stuff emerges. And you watch for antisocial behavior, and you need to address it. Do not let it go by. If a child pinches, hurts, bites, and so on, you have to correct that by teaching positive forms of the behavior. Now, in addition to that, children will again be involved in aimless wandering around the house. And so when they're young, you can help social development by letting them wander and then make your home safe and easy for them by letting them wander, putting little gates at your stairs and so on, which most parents know about. Now, being alone, see, is something you may have to teach children. And you might have to say it's okay to play by yourself here, and teach them that this place is warm and friendly. It's like helping your child learn to go to bed. When they have a hard time doing that, take them in during the day, take some little pieces of crackers or something, maybe animal crackers, and while you're talking there, tell stories about how warm and friendly the bed is, so you're helping your child feel comfortable. Now, it is really important to watch for something called social anxiety. Social anxiety has to do with being afraid of one person and groups of people. So during this time of life, help your children be confident by teaching them what's going to happen in situations, being patient and help them learn to be good, and then help them be friends. And if you have neighbors who are friends, weekly milk and cookie experience or play, and then instead of saying, Johnny, you play well, say, you kids are playing well together, and reinforce the idea that the kids are successful. This is our first episode of social development, and in the next one we'll talk about how you help your children develop specific social skills.